The board will now reconvene to open session and report out items from closed session. Regarding 3.1 Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Superintendent Evaluation, Government Code Section 54957, there is nothing to report. Regarding 3.2 Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release, Government Code Section 54957, there is nothing to report. Regarding 3.3, update on negotiations and with NHUSD bargaining units, conference with legal counsel, Government Code Section 3549.1, there is nothing to report. Moving on to the procedural items, may I ask the student board members to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Moving on to 4.3, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Martinez.
Aye.
Romero.
Aye.
Shihira.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Chiba.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to 5.1, information item. May I have a governor's budget proposal for 2019-2020? May I have Ms. Heldman go over the proposal?
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Smith. Annette Heldman, I'm your Chief Business Officer. I don't have a presentation, but in the board packet is a single-page information that shows what those elements are that are impacting our funding from the January governor's proposals. So, first section, it's kind of different than what I'm looking at, but it's the same information. So you have there several line items that actually are included in the proposals for 1920 budget for the state. I'm going to focus on the public education budget, which is part of Prop 98. So I'm not going to read all those to you, but as you can see, there's about 10 or a dozen of them that talks about the different areas that the governor is proposing to put money to. Of note are the two line items that are highlighted, which are the $2 billion for LCFF by way of a higher COLA than what was originally projected, and $3 billion by way of savings from employer share of the STRS cost. So those two are what I will focus on because those are what will impact our funding. Now the rest of them, in fact, a lot of these items are at this point very uncooked. That's actually how it was described at the conference that we attended to. Just a few hours ago, actually, even the STRS savings, which is the $3 billion statewide, is already changing. From a savings of 1.03% is now going to be 1%. So case in point, a lot of these will still be negotiated by the time we get to May revise and ultimately by the time the governor enacts a budget. So let's concentrate on those two things because those are the things that we can estimate and come up to a number and translate it to what it means to New Haven Unified School District. So when you get to the second section, which is the impact of the governor's budget proposal, what I'm showing there is taking just those two items and translate them into dollars, given our own sets of data, meaning our enrollment, our unduplicated pupil count, and our average daily attendance. So going back to those two items, let's talk about the higher COLA. In calculating that using the required LCFF calculator, that gives us about $900,000. Okay, and you're seeing that number as the first line item. The STIR savings will generate approximately $670,000. Now, the important thing to remember is those are simply taking the governor's proposal and putting them in our calculation. They're not taking into account anything else, and I'll explain what those other things are. So when you strictly go to those two proposals that are impacting our funding, we would have gained, or we would gain $1.5 million based on what the governor is proposing. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are other things that are not staying the way that they were. That $1.5 million is simply based on if everything else that we projected as the first interim remains constant. The first interim report was what you approved in December, and that still has the numbers from the Budget Act. So this is the first opportunity that we can update those revenue projections for the out years. Now, the second section, so we said if everything else remained the same, we would gain $1.5 million from the governor's proposals. The second section is showing you what the loss is based on 54 lower than projected enrollment, lower than projected unduplicated pupil count. It shows the different areas that are dropping on our revenue projection under the formula. It's so ironic that the numbers are almost the same. It's 1.567 on one end and 1.576 on the other end. But anyway, as you can see, the net gain to us is almost nothing. So illustration A just shows you, the bottom line numbers, what we would gain and what we are in fact losing, the updated LCFF revenue. I took it a longer step in illustrating that under illustration B, where we teased out those two components. So we take the loss, and I will show you what comprise the 1.567 downturn in the next page. So we first take that full number, and we tease out what the higher COLA means to us, which is the $900,000, gives us the net difference. We tease out whatever the savings is in terms of STIRs, gives us the net difference. So we land on the same number. So essentially, there's no bad news in the governor's proposal. However, we have some factors that are happening locally, internally in our district that are negating whatever we would otherwise gain. So when you go to the next page, it actually shows what those different areas are that comprise the drop of 1.5 million. So we wanted to show the data sets in terms of what we knew as the first interim, what we calculated just based on what the governor is proposing, leaving everything else the same, and updating all other factors, which I called everything under C. And then we took the delta from each of those data points, and that's what comprised the drop of 1.5 million. So because we are declining enrollment, and we've talked about this in multiple meetings, we at least have a 1-year reprieve so that we don't lose the money based on the loss in the current year that we're in. So in other words, we're going to be funded based on prior year or current year ADA, so that's a good thing for us. Now, when it comes to the unduplicated pupil count, it's not the same story. We actually would be impacted in the year that it dropped or increased, if it increased. In this case, we are projecting a drop of our unduplicated pupil count based on the 3-year rolling average, and that number could change. So there are variables here that still could change, but based on the information that we received about 2 weeks ago, this is what it would mean to New Haven. This gives us information that we need to start developing the budgets for 1920 and the 2 years out. And again, as I've mentioned earlier in my discussion, there's more that would happen. A lot of these may not even make it to the Budget Act, or a lot of them would be different by the time we get to May revise. So we'll continue to monitor those changes. Are there any questions?
So this was information-only item, so anyone has questions?
So I just wanted to just ensure my understanding on this, just to kind of read it back to you. The COLA and the kind of the relief that we're getting for the STIRs and for the STIRs liabilities, all of that benefit is eaten up by the fact that we're having declining enrollment.
Correct.
So basically, this is neutral for us.
Correct.
This does not put us in a better financial position because of declining enrollment.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Member Wang?
No, I'm fine.
Member
Another
Chima?
question.
Member Canlis? No? Well, thank you so much for really filtering out the information. I know that the California budget in and of itself is just pretty messy. So thank you. We appreciate you filtering it out to our district. So with no other questions on that, we will move on to public comment, hearing of visitors on topics not on agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped 5.2, items from the board and superintendent. Our student members would like to share something?
I don't really have anything for.
Oh, wait. Did you attend Guided Coalition today? I'm interfering. She was wonderful in her share out today, and I think we should all, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we all need to hear what you had to say today.
Like exactly.
Whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay, so one thing that I took from Guided Coalition today was I personally found out that requirements that the state is asking for from continuation schools and alternative schools, it's basically saying that I'm not college career ready and I'm not at the level of going to college and being okay and like being successful. And the requirements that they're given, I don't have those opportunities to get from my school. So one of the requirements for A through G, our classes are A through G requirements. So how are we supposed to meet these requirements when we're not given the tools? That was one thing I learned at Guided Coalition.
Thank you.
Give you a report for you.
Yeah, you're making me sweat here.
We'll come to it.
Jocelyn?
So I'm working on, again, the early stages of the Student Advisory Board, and I'm meeting with Dr. Smith again next week to set forth a plan, just like trying to create the structure so we can place it in Logan, hopefully sometime this year, or just get it rolling. I'm also meeting with Dr. Smith sometime next week as well with Russell Augustine. So we're just going to discuss the mental and physical health program that is trying to be implemented at the Logan school site. It's a peer-to-peer program created by students. And there's a couple of games going on this week. So there's boys soccer tomorrow, it's their senior night, and then girls soccer on Thursday, which is also their senior night. And I think there's going to be a pretty good turnout for the Monroe versus Logan basketball game, which is also on Thursday. And I also attended Guiding Coalition today, and I think it being, I think it's my 8th time at a Guiding Coalition, and every time I leave, I come back with the same thing and the same notion that, what we do there needs to be shared and people need to know more about it because it's really of value and it's something that not all districts do. So I'm just kind of brainstorming ways to make sure people know what's going on and what's going on in our district and what we're doing to try to better it.
Thank you. Member Nishiyara?
Yeah, so two things. One, I wanted to congratulate the girls soccer, varsity soccer team for winning MVAL. My daughter is a first year varsity athlete there. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about, what we're hearing in terms of the budget. It's something that we really need to kind of jump onto in terms of really understanding the revenue side. I know that we talk about the expenditure side quite a bit. Declining enrollment is probably one of the only things that we really have any if any control at all. But the thing that we've been asking for quite some time is data that will help us understand that. And I know that we were going to get some information from the demographer, I think, for the site.
The teacher housing project?
For the teacher housing project. Do we have a timeline on that?
It's March.
March, and so
You actually have, you should have gotten a BC with the preliminaries today, I think, because I read it yesterday
Okay.
for the first time. And so the preliminaries have been shared with us, and I think we forwarded it to you either yesterday or today, so you have some preliminaries.
But I don't think that BC includes data, it just
No, it
has like
doesn't. The
survey
data will come in
questions.
March.
Okay.
It's just showing
Just
you
survey.
what they're going to be asking
Okay.
to get the information that you are looking for.
That's what I was talking about.
But if you also remember, we said that much of the data that you've been asking for will come from when we update the facilities master plan. So this is preliminary to that.
Okay.
So you won't get the full range of everything from this survey, if I understood correctly.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Wang.
Yes, and I have a couple things to report. And last week, and I work with, go to the party with a couple of the city councilor in Union City. We went to the Tom Bellock's retirement, and he's on the in the board, the president of board, and he served for 24 years, and finally he's retired. And I wish more Union City people can go, because I do not see too many Union City, majority Fremont. I mean, he actually represented all the area, and also part of the New York, Fremont, and Union City, and South Hayward. Yeah, so, yeah. The second thing is, and everybody know today is a Chinese New Year, so I went to several parties, and best wish everybody good luck and for the year of the bull. And yeah, I'm quite busy with some kind of community, the parties, and yeah, okay, that's all.
Thank you. Member Chima?
Oh, I have been attending some events, it was busy. Right after the last board meeting we had in January 15th, so January 16th, I attended the Aloni College board's swearing-in ceremony and board meeting. We have a meeting coming up with the Aloni board later on this month, so it's good to know people and have some relations built. Then on January 23rd, I also attended the governor's budget workshop at the Alameda County Board of Education. Was very informative, and the information all that Annette is talking about, so it's easy to understand once you go through that process. Then, here on January 24th, here in our boardroom, and thank you so much for Tracy and other associates. They have, they hosted the bystanders training, which was very informational and more kind of hands-on training. I benefited from them. I hope more people can join in their next sessions, because timings are very difficult in these days, what's happening in our community, and the rhetoric from the national scene is not helping at all. Then also I attended the Aloni College President's Advisory Committee, which is like State of the Union about how many programs Aloni College is offering, and what are the new projects they are developing, and how they can collaborate with the school districts here and Union City and Hayward. Not in Fremont and Newark and other stuff. So again, this will be covered, some of the information will be covered with when we have our joint meeting with the Aloni College Board. And on January 29th, I attended the Mission Valley Regional Occupational Programs meeting, where I represent our school board on the MBROP, and I got elected as president of the MBROP for this year. So I look forward to having good programs there, and there is a, they call it Educators Brunch. That event is coming up. Maybe I will send the email, the district. Whoever can participate, they can go attend that and take a look at the programs they offer to our students. And then, also last Friday on February 1st, I attended Pioneer Elementary School's parent-teacher clubs, family dance day.
evening, I mean. So it was, there was a good attendance from the families, and it was, remember, it's cold outside, and so families, they took shelter, and the kids and families, they danced together, and they raised some funds for the PTC. It was another good kind of inspirational meeting for me to start my year off in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Canlis?
I have nothing to report, thank you.
Oh, wow, that's very rare.
That's unusual.
I've done a lot, but that's not related to.
We'll take that, thank you. As for me, I just have a few things, actually. First of all, I wanted to point out that there was a PCHAR announcement that went out, and also an announcement to the elementary principals. There is a Mother-Daughter STEM Discovery Day planned in Fremont, and it is, I think, Member Wang was talking about lack of participation from Union City often, and this is what they had also expressed, that they rarely have participants from Union City, so we wanted to get the announcement out early enough so we could get more students from 3rd and 4th grade from all of our seven elementary schools. So this is girls and their mothers to participate at this event. It is on Saturday, February 23rd from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And Lori, can we include that in our weekly newsletter as well, just so we have that going until the 23rd? John, thank you. February 1st is when they opened up the New Haven Scholarship, Schools Foundation Scholarship Program. This year again, we decided to do the same scholarship that we did last year, Bhagat Puran Singh Scholarship, which will be awarded to a student from a special education program. The scholarship award this year again will be $1,000. So students are encouraged to apply. Not only to this, but there are, I think about over $125,000 that's already been committed to scholarships. So those are open for everyone to participate in. And happy Chinese New Year. So that is really all so that is all I have in terms of announcements from me. Dr. Smith?
First of all, I want to say I think Neilani was being modest, because when she spoke today, the whole room just stopped and listened very carefully to what she had to say about preparing students for college. And what she didn't say that she said today is, with all of what was shared, she's still going to college. And so, but it did make us stop and take pause about what the state indicators are and how they align or misalign to students who may not be on the A through G profile, who may not fit that profile. And so she did a great job. People were still talking about what she had to say after the meeting ended, and just having the student voice in there to remind us of that. I do want to call out just a couple of honors that people today, we just learned today that, AXA gives out its awards every year, and we have several people from the district who are going to be honored. Judith Alcala from Hillview Crest was one of the honorees for K-5 principal. Huy Stevens for Central Office Administration. Lourdes Villegas, the Central Office leader. Gina Chicolo was the confidential employee. The biggie was, if you remember, and I just indulge me for like 60 seconds, but if you remember, maybe this is 2019, 1918, yeah, right. 2019, but if you remember in like 2010, this dream about creating wraparound services for the community, really around targeted towards Dakota, but it's grown, it's evolved from, it was modeled after the Harlem Children's Zone, and it just continues to grow. And thanks to Nancy's leadership and her staff, they are being recognized as the region winner for the Partners in Educational Excellence Award. And so we just want to commend them for the work that they've done, reaching out to find grants and get every possible dollar they can to support that. It's gone from this little kernel to where now they have a food bank and clothing and outreach. I mean, it's been fantastic to watch it grow. And so I did want to just give them a shout out for the work that they've done. And with that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving along. So moving on to hearing of visitors on topics not on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
We have one,
Okay.
Joe Angeles.
Good evening, President Corr, Clerk Canlis, board members, student reps, district staff, superintendent, and folks in the gallery. I just wanted to make a statement regarding the current trend of us as New Haven Teachers Association. The current trend of what's been the discussion that happened on January 31st, the bargaining session. As you know, we went into a joint impasse, and I just want to say I know we are all on, and I appreciate our collaboration effort on another conversation that leads us to Sacramento. As much as I understand that, we do have to look at two different ways of thinking that conversation. One has one effect, but we do have to take care of things at home. And obviously what happened on Thursday says that we still have a problem here at home. I was hoping that for that conversation, we knew and we've heard many stories about what's going on with the district budget, and found, hoping to see how we can be something different. But as you know, been announced, on Thursday we found out the offer from the district is zero. As much as that's very much disheartening, disappointing, I cannot contend with seeking that the things we just talked about this district as well as in the coalition today, that the teachers here are zero. And I really think that that is something that really has to be said out loud, and probably several times, because I don't know how well we can say that, and all these great things we say about our students and our program, but the answer from the district is zero. I think it tells us the idea of what we're worth. I know it's going to change some of the ideas that we try to get to a different place in this year, where our working relationship is, how we work together, how we look at each other for that kind of support. I know, and I don't want to mean to kind of use Ms. Leilani as an example, but it always reminds us, and I said this at Coalition today, how much things that are presented sometimes don't see the real picture about how we need to look at things. Because things can be really true and so-called understanding, but when you look at it in a very different way, it has a different meaning and more so a different intent. So I ask you really to consider, as we have some time to think about our statement out loud, that zero is a task for the teachers, with all these kind of allotments of achievements, ongoing efforts, ongoing places, but yet today, at this moment, New Haven teachers are zero effort for the district. So again, I appreciate your consideration and understanding for a different conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Angeles. Moving on to hearing of visitors' topics on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
Okay, thank you. So moving along, next item, we have the action item 8.1, proposed calendar of regular board meetings for 2018-2019. And this was actually proposed because we want to ensure that we have a quorum for our meeting on May 7th. So the suggestion was that we move up the board meeting to April 30th, 2009. May I have a motion and a second to approve the revised calendar of regular board meeting for 2018-2019?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that?
I do,
Okay.
yes. So, by law, what is our required number of meetings per month that we're supposed to be having?
Policy.
You have your policy.
Right.
There's no law that says you have to have that
Okay,
required number. You have your policy
right.
that says you can, as I recall, you get to set your calendar. And then you can amend it, but the way we put it out to the public is that we'll meet twice a month.
Okay,
But you get to amend that.
all right. Okay,
So we do have the second meeting in May, which is on May 21st, I believe. So right now, we're only amending May 7th meeting to move up to April 30th.
but did we already have an April 30th meeting on there, or is that
We-
April 30th meeting?
No, so
Is added?
It is an added meeting. In April, we have one meeting already, so this would have been the second meeting in April.
Yeah, because the first week of April is the break.
Spring
That's why
break
we have only
return.
one meeting usually in April.
Yeah, so this would still follow our timeline of every 2 weeks. And so with having May 7th, it would have been after 3 weeks, right? So the
Okay.
first meeting would have been, I think, April 7th or?
No, April 15th. is
April
the-
15th, excuse
Yeah.
me, April 15th, and the second meeting, now we're proposing it to be April 30th.
16, April 16, right.
Okay.
Okay,
Also, because I remember when we had discussed about this, is that we are in the process of hiring a new superintendent, so we have to have some timelines and meetings aligned, so that was another reason for us to have that meeting moved.
I think more to the point is I just want to make sure that we have enough meetings
Yeah.
to get all the business done that we need to have done.
Right.
We certainly have enough meetings
did not
on the
lose-
calendar. Yeah, we did not lose a meeting, we're actually just moving this one up.
Because I know that February was actually pretty, or no,
February we
March
have
was
two.
actually pretty light.
February have two meetings.
March, we only have one. Is it that we all,
Yes,
Spring break?
because of the spring break.
all right, I think the bottom line is that we need to make sure that we all feel confident that we have enough meetings to get our business done.
Absolutely, and the reason, excuse me, go ahead.
So the bottom line is, we did not lose a meeting. We actually just moved May 7th to April 30th. There was nothing on April 30th.
Okay. So that's April 30th is an incremental, it's an incremental meeting.
That's
Okay.
correct. And just to be transparent, two members, Member Canlis and myself, will be out the first week of May, so we want to make sure that we can conduct a quorum and have, all of the business held in public meetings that we have to have. So that's why the proposal date is Tuesday, April 30th.
Can I just share the board policy says, which you did, the board shall annually designate a meeting day and time during the annual organizational meeting, which was done back in December. All regular meetings of the board shall be held in the regular established boardroom unless otherwise voted by the board. So you have the latitude to make a change if
Amendments.
necessary. And then it goes on to talk about special meetings and all that, but
Okay.
Just so
Thanks.
you know, we have meetings every Tuesdays in February except for the 12th.
I know.
Even though it says only one, February 5th and 19th here, we actually have more than that.
Several special meetings.
have the
Special meeting, yeah.
We have a special meeting with our loaning board, and then we have special meeting with our
18,
hiring,
yeah.
so we have more than enough
We'll be
meetings.
meeting out in February.
Yeah,
Okay, any further discussion on that?
no.
All right, roll call, please.
Martinez,
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda items. Are there any items members would like to pull for information, clarification, or separate vote? Member Nishihara?
None.
Member Wang?
None.
Wow, okay, I have a couple actually. And this is gonna be, actually just one. 9.9, the MOU with Kidango. Ms. Metzinger? So my question, since we just got presented with the governor's budget, I know there is a significant investment in early childhood. Are we seeing any increase in space at Kidango for our preschoolers? Are we seeing any sort of early impact or like preparation for an impact possibly being made? I know it's not addressed in this MOU at the moment.
The governor's plan was very vague when we went to the meeting in Sacramento, so we don't really have any indication what it's going to mean for Kidango or for preschool statewide at this point. So we haven't started to look into that as yet. because we don't really know where they're going with it.
Okay. I know it's not passed yet, but I just figure since we're, everyone's talking about or running with the budget that's given, how much of planning early childhood in our district is happening.
Comment?
Yeah.
So since there is a zero budget impact on us with this MOU, so all the money they receive directly goes to them, how does that work? Just want 5 minute information.
I'm sorry, so who is going to receive the early childhood funding?
No, not early child, Kadango money. So they do receive the money directly from the state, and so why do we even have, because there is no financial impact on us.
We're essentially a pass-through, if you will.
It's like JPA kind of thing? Okay,
Yes.
I see.
But I think they do pay us the administration fees of like 3-point-some percentage, right? Which I saw
Overhead or
that here.
something?
Or the
Overhead?
Overhead.
I believe for the facilities use, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it's beyond money at this point. The MOU is simply there to specify the agreements between how we're going to be using the facilities, what the requirements are for them. It's not really a financial consideration, it's just an
there's no
understanding
financial concern, right?
for how they can use our facilities and what the expectations are.
Right. I think I was just really trying to understand if the conversation on their end has already started, in terms, because I know it's always an issue. We want to see increase in early childhood, especially in our district. And then we have seen or heard also the trends that if you have enough students in the preschool here in our district, they tend to trickle into our district for K through 12.
Yes, but no, we have not had any conversations with them as yet, but I think it's because the bill, it's very vague at this point. It was just a proposal, given that the governor was just newly elected, and so the legislation is still pending. I think once they have an idea of what it will mean, we'll probably be in discussions with them, but it's so early right now in his governorship that we just don't have the details as yet.
Okay, fair enough, thank you. Right.
The proposal in terms of early education is really focused on infrastructure at this point. It's focused on facilities, not so much the program end of it. Of course, the sentiment out there is that if there's another term for this governor, that's when he would build on that program. But the line item in the January proposal is really focused on the infrastructure because we need space as he intends to grow the early education program. In terms of the current contract that you're approving, as Ms. Metzinger said, we are simply a pass-through. We do get a little bit of indirect, and they pay us for all the direct cost.
Thank you. I mean, I know that when you were presenting the budget, I wanted to ask then, but I figured there is a line item here in the consent agenda. So it's not really relevant to the MOU, but I wanted to understand if any conversations had started. Thank you. This can remain on the agenda, so since we're not pulling anything, may I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items 9.1 to 9.12?
Move. Second.
Discussion?
None.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. With no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Wow,
I thought you were hitting me after.
Chinese New Year.
thank you. Thank you. Yes.
The only ones that
Laurie,
stress me out are like
thank you.
the nines ones. They're the ones that
I got it.
Yes, I'm driving myself.
Yes, I am too. Yes.
And then I will text Lori for a bit. Yes, I just let her know that you're fine. Enjoy the party.